All right, this is lesson 5 in our last unit of AP Psychology, the treatment unit, and we're going to be looking today at behavior therapies. So we're looking at the behaviorist perspective, rewards and punishments, operant conditioning, classical conditioning, so we're looking at associations. Starting with classical conditioning, if you remember John Watson and the Little Albert studies, the behaviorists emphasize learning or conditioning principles to eliminate or to get rid of unwanted or maladaptive behaviors. And they believe that anything that we learn, any behavior that we learn, can be unlearned. So we can get rid of negative behaviors that cause us stress, that cause us some sort of dysfunction in any way. They believe it's very simple. We just reassociate those behaviors. So starting with classical conditioning, the techniques that they use, and I'm going to go through each one of them. The 3 of them are counterconditioning, systematic desensitization, and aversion therapy. These classical conditioning therapy techniques work really, really well with phobias. So counterconditioning, what it means is to take whatever it is that we're afraid of. Let's use our phobia for an example. So we pair that object or the situation that we're afraid of. So if it's spiders, we take the spider and we pair it or make a new association with something pleasant. So if we're afraid of flying, for example, maybe we pair that with, I don't know, something we like ice cream, because who doesn't like ice cream? Okay, I'm sure there's someone out there. But so that when we're on that airplane, we're eating ice cream and we create this new association and we are happy, happy, happy. It sounds simple, but it really doesn't work as simply as the behaviorists hope that it will. So another way to do this would be called systematic desensitization. We're going to desensitize systematically, if you will, the fear, whatever it is, and we're going to replace that unpleasant conditioned response, okay, whatever that fear, anxiety, with a pleasant conditioned response, calmness or peace. So we're going to take that anxiety, whatever it is we feel, and we're going to make that conditioned response become something that's just more calm. And I'm going to show you how we do that. It's a 3-step process, and what we do is we first of all teach relaxation techniques to construct an anxiety hierarchy. So we're going to take all those different things that cause me anxiety and we are going to rank order those from the least anxiety causing to the most anxiety causing. So the least anxiety causing, let's say I'm afraid of spiders. The least anxiety causing is going to be maybe knowing that there's a spider in the room with me, a little tiny little spider. All the way up to the most anxiety causing, which would be being in a room full of spiders where they can crawl all over me. Okay, yeah, no thank you. But then we begin the therapy, and what we do is we walk through that least anxiety arousing stimulus. We walk through that hierarchy, starting with the least anxiety arousing stimulus, and we practice those relaxation techniques. And then we move our way up through the hierarchy so that ultimately, by the end, I'm in a room with spiders all over and they are able to crawl all over me and I'm still practicing my still practicing my relaxation techniques and I'm cured of my phobia. Because it's true, when you think about biologically, anxiety and relaxation cannot exist together. So, if a person truly puts themselves through this, it can work. There are 3 extreme types of systematic desensitization. The first one is called implosive therapy, and with implosive therapy there is no gradual process. We start in that room full of spiders, except that we just imagine it. We don't actually go into a room with spiders. We just imagine being in that room, and we practice relaxation techniques through our imagination. The second one is exposure therapy, and this one's really common. I have a lot of videos on this actually. Behaviorists will call this flooding as well, and we just expose the client to their fear, whatever it is, and we just put them right into the middle of it and we have them go at it. Okay, so you're afraid of spiders, let's go look at spiders and let's touch them and do whatever it is with them. And if done correctly, if done properly, it works very, very quickly. This time though, they don't just imagine the fear, they actually experience it. They experience whatever it is. So we're going to go into that room, and that's how it's going to be. We're going to go into that room with all those spiders, and we're going to experience that fear, and we're going to learn how to relax during it. The last one is called in vivo desensitization, and basically it's the same thing, only instead of imagining it or actually experiencing it, we're going to experience it virtually through, a three-dimensional type of a exposure to that feared stimulus. We've covered systematic desensitization, and we've covered counterconditioning. The third one is called aversion therapy. And what we're going to do here is we are going to take something that gives us a positive response. Okay, so let's say that we've got an alcoholic, all right, or someone who wants to stop smoking. And you know that when people smoke, they get a positive response out of it. They feel better. Or with alcohol, they feel more relaxed. Well, instead of doing that, having that positive response, we are going to replace it with a negative response. So we're going to make them sick. Okay, we're going to cause them to, throw up or whatever kind of a thing. So we can condition an aversion to something that the client should avoid. So we will give them, maybe we'll inject them with something that will make them sick at the same time as they're smoking. So every time they smoke, they're going to now associate that with being sick and therefore not want to smoke anymore. Some operant conditioning techniques. We use extinction techniques, trying to make a negative behavior go away, and that would be when we remove the reinforcement. Okay, so when we have an undesirable behavior, we just do not reinforce it, okay, or we take away the reinforcement if there was one to begin with. Token economies, put a star next to this one because for whatever reason students don't really learn what token economies are, and what I'm going to explain here, we use this in schools a lot of times. We give some sort of a token, if you will. No, it could be a sticker, it could be a stamp, it could be points, something like that. For every time that the person performs the desired behavior, they get some sort of a token that they then can cash in for a larger reward later on. Elementary school teachers do this all the time. Natalie has this done in her kindergarten class, where she gets to put a dot on her little chart in her classroom, and when she gets all of her dots filled in, she gets a special reward. And so it's a positive motivator to behave in class and to do the right thing in class and things like that. So I know in first grade my children had Mrs. Hellman, and she would do Hellman bucks, and every time the kids were caught doing something correct or doing a positive behavior, they would be paid or rewarded with Hellman bucks, which then she would have like the store. The kids could go and cash in their Hellman bucks, once a month or once every 2 weeks or something like that. And she had all these little toys and things that people would bring in, basically our trash that we would put into a garage sale. But then she would give that to the kids. They could exchange. She'd have different prices on them, and it would cost various amounts of Hellman bucks. The third type of operant conditioning technique is punishment, and this is when we give something unwanted for a behavior, and we get rid of the unwanted behavior by giving them something they don't want. It's basic punishment. There's also social skills training, which I'm not going to take the time to talk about, but I want to make sure that you take the time just to at least read it over. I haven't seen questions like this on an exam, but you just never know. So make sure you're at least familiar with what it is. So look on page 621 and familiarize yourself just with the basics of social skills training. So this covers it for the behavioral therapies. They're very practical. They work very quickly, and they are pretty successful if the person is willing to do them. You can't force someone to do it, but if the person's willing to and really wants to get over whatever it is that they are afraid of or wants to change their behavior positively, then these behavioral therapies really do work. So as always, ask me questions if you have them, and I will see you soon.